All right, future CPAs, welcome to my brand new training on the 7 proven principles for passing the CPA exam with whatever CPA study materials you might be using. So let's dive into the slides. We're not wasting any time. So let me get myself out of the way. So again, this is the 7 proven principles to passing the CPA exam masterclass. And before we get started, I just want to make sure you're in the right place. So if you are brand new to the entire CPA exam process and want to learn how to pass the CPA exam as quickly as possible, who doesn't, right? You're definitely in the right place. Perhaps you've already started studying for the CPA exam or even passed a section or two, but you're starting to lose some motivation and are feeling overwhelmed with everything that you need to get done. You're definitely in the right place. Perhaps you failed the CPA exam and just don't know what to do next. You're absolutely in the right spot, and I'll definitely have some great stuff on the call. All right, it looks like I need to make myself a little bit smaller here. So today we're going to be learning, again, the 7 principles to pass the CPA exam with any CPA review course. We're going to help you craft the perfect study session for your situation. And then I'm going to show you in real time an example on how to execute on all of these principles. And yes, multitasking is not recommended. So I know there's a lot of distractions and stuff, but the folks who shut down their notifications, turn their phone on silent, and just focus on the training, those are the folks who get the best results from what I'm about to teach. Now, speaking of what I'm about to teach, who the heck am I? Why should you trust me? So I am a CPA exam mentor. I've been doing this since 2015, and I'm the founder of Ultimate CPA Exam Guide and the brand new Kesler CPA Review. So I've been a licensed CPA since 2011, and I work directly with companies like Wiley CPA to help their students study smarter and pass the exam faster. And I've mentored over 2,000 plus CPA candidates. And ultimately, here's what drives me. So here's a quick example. So it's getting people results like this. So people all over the world, they come to us for help. And basically, we've created the ultimate study supplement to teach people how to study, how to manage their time, how to overcome failure, and ultimately earn what's called a Kesler boost. And this is what the Kesler boost looks like. So Jasmine, she came to us, she was sulking after failing audit, and then fast forward 2 months later, she executed our mentorship and used the Kesler CPA Review Study Supplement and got an amazing result. So this is what makes my day. This is what I do for people all around the world, and it's how I create CPAs. So again, everything I'm about to teach you, these 7 principles, this is from real world experience, from getting results for CPA candidates today. This is what my students are using, and it's proven to get results for even students who are struggling to pass the CPA exam, and also for people who are brand new to the CPA exam process and just don't really know where to start. So if you are ready, let's dive into the 7 proven principles. So principle number 1. So again, it all starts with mental preparation. So let me get myself a little bit bigger here. So when I was first starting to study for the CPA exam, I was fresh out of college. I was way overconfident. I had a great GPA. I had a job lined up, and I just assumed the CPA exam was just going to be, another check on the to-do list. And so what happened was that I went into the process not really even thinking about it. I got the most expensive CPA review course, and I just started reading and answering questions and watching video lectures, not really having a plan, and then went into my first exam and ended up failing. And let me tell you, this was the first time I had ever failed academically, and it crushed me. And if you're like me, an overachieving accountant, failing something can absolutely create this downward spiral. So I began to doubt myself. I began to question whether I was worthy of being an accountant. And it was a really tough time, and it really got me into a dark place really quickly. And what happened was I ended up failing 5 times in a row, and then I ended up losing my first job due to the Great Recession and the fact that I hadn't passed the CPA exam. So by not preparing for the CPA exam mentally and preparing for the fact that I could actually fail, it cost me thousands of dollars, months of wasted time, and it really set me back in my career. And so I don't want this to be you. So I want you to really focus on mental preparation. So come up with reasons why you have to become a CPA and then write them down, keep them in focus. I really want you to find people to support you. So personally, I kept all these failures inside. I was embarrassed. I didn't want to tell anyone that I was struggling. And basically what happened was I just became this isolated hermit crab who was just, ultimately playing the victim card that woe is me, I keep failing. And the reality is I should have been finding people to help me recover from failure and help me mentally prepare for the CPA exam. Because again, I had never failed before, and failing the CPA exam, it absolutely crushed me and demoralized me I held it in for way too long. And that was a huge mistake that I first made when I was studying for the CPA exam for the first time. All right, so that moves on to principle number 2, is to find a mentor to teach you how to study and plan. So this is so crucial. So after I failed my first section, if I had been smart, I would have found people who had also failed the CPA exam and then figured out how to overcome failure and pass. But instead, again, I held it all in. I was just isolating myself, just being like, oh, I can do this. I'm going to figure it out on my own, instead of taking the shortcut of finding a mentor or a coach or just somebody in my network who I could ask questions on and admit that I had failed. But again, my ego got in the way, and I took way too long, and it ultimately cost me my first job because the 2 people in my start class who got let go, so my firm, they cut 20% off the top. It was the 2 people who hadn't passed the CPA exam, and I was one of them. So I made myself an easy target. And so again, please find somebody to mentor you, teach you how to study and how to manage your time, how to recover, and how to prepare for failure. And so this is actually something that I have done. So because it was such a life-changing experience to fail the CPA exam and then overcome it, I created what's called Ultimate CPA Exam Guide, which is my mentorship program. And so basically we walk you through multiple steps to get you, before you even start studying, we'll walk you through multiple steps to prepare you your mental mindset transformation. We really want to address that. So we really start with that and help you overcome your fears and failures and obstacles. And then we're going to help you with planning, your identifying your learning style, how to make time, how to study effectively, and then teach you how to study with your specific study materials, and then teach you about the psychology behind the exam, and then again, post-exam recovery. What do you do if you pass? What do you do if you fail? And just give you step-by-step instructions on what to do wherever you are in your journey. And so this is exactly what I wish I would have had when I was studying for the CPA exam. It would have saved me months and months of pain and toil and wasted study time, and saved me thousands of dollars, because again, I missed out on my pass bonus, and I missed out on so many different things by not passing the CPA exam on my first shot. So again, finding a mentor to teach you how to study and plan is definitely a crucial step if you're somebody who's struggling with the CPA exam or is nervous, or maybe you have a fear of failure that's paralyzing you about this process. So definitely consider finding a CPA exam mentor. Okay, so principle number 3, find accountability partners. So the CPA exam, you're going to be spending a few hundred hours studying for this exam, unless you're maybe a PhD and you already know everything that's on the exam. So for the average folks like me, we're going to be spending a couple hundred hours on a single section. So how do you stay on point? How do you juggle work and life and your friends and family and all that stuff? So the key is to find an accountability partner. So who are the people in your life that care about you? Who are the people in your life that are going to feel like you're essentially cheating on them by spending so much time studying? Those are the people that you need to identify. Those are the people that you need to get involved in the process. And those are the folks that you want to be accountability partners with. And the reason being is that when you have an accountability partner, you're going to fill them in on your study goals. And then they're going to be the ones that you're going to celebrate with if you achieve those weekly study goals. But then they're also going to be the ones that are going to hold you accountable and punish you for not achieving your goals. And it can be like a monetary punishment. Maybe you'll owe them $5, or maybe you have to do 25 push-ups in front of them, and then they can make fun of you during that. Whatever it is that you can start doing to get the people you care about involved in this process, the faster it's going to become more enjoyable. And you're going to, again, have somebody hold you accountable for hitting your study goals. And you're going to start gaining a lot of momentum that you're going to need to stay focused and motivated. Let's see here. We actually have, inside of Ultimate CPA Exam Guide, we have a built-in accountability partner program. Basically what we recommend is that you connect with somebody on my team, and then we also provide you with basically every week you'll set your study goal and then give yourself an award. So basically get something on the calendar with people you care about, and then you're going to identify who this week's accountability partner is going to be, and then you're going to craft a fun punishment for yourself if you don't achieve your study goal. Then you're going to submit it to our team, and then it will automatically send you can forward the goals and the punishments and everything to your accountability partners, and then you're off to the races. So it's a really fun way to get people in your life involved in the process. So even if you're not using Ultimate CPA Exam Guide, I highly recommend that you use this process just to make the people in your life feel like they're involved in this process, because again, they're not going to understand what you're going through, especially if they're not an accountant. And so it's hard for them to understand why you have to spend so much time. And it's a really important principle to follow if you're serious about passing the CPA exam. All right, principle number 4, find CPA exam community. So just like finding an accountability partner, finding a dedicated place where there's people who are going through the same things that you're going through is essential. So your accountability partners, those are the folks who don't understand what it means to become a CPA, what it means to study for this exam. But a CPA exam community, this needs to be a place full of people who are at your level, who are going through the exact same thing you are going through. Now, a couple of pointers about CPA exam community. So you want it to be a high quality community. So there's a lot of free forums, free Facebook groups out there, but it's just the Wild West. So you can't really trust what the anonymous people in these groups are saying, because again, what works for one person might not work for another. There's also trolls out there you have to worry about. There's people constantly trying to sell things and all those shenanigans that happen in those free groups. So you really want to find a good, tight-knit community of people who understand what it's going to take to pass the CPA exam and is moderated. So that's a key word there, is a moderated CPA exam community. Now, if you're lucky enough to have in-person community, that's obviously the best. So then it's like you're sitting there, you're in the trenches with people that you know. But if you don't have access to that sort of community, the next best thing is an online community. And so one of the greatest things I've ever created personally is my Facebook study group. And so we've got over 1,400 members in here. And what's cool is that everyone in the group, they've gone through my self-study training. They've worked with my team. They're in an accountability partner program, and we're all on the same page. And I personally moderate this Facebook group. And there's literally hundreds of posts from people who are going through the exact same thing that you're going through. And they can be there to give you advice, keep pushing you forward, picking you back up if you do fail a section of the CPA exam. And then what's really cool is that you can search our database so say you failed the CPA exam. There are tons of posts from people who failed, and then people sharing tons of advice on their specific situation, on what they would do if they were in your shoes and so forth. So again, it's an amazing community. It's one of the coolest things I've ever created. And it's a great way for you to interact with me as well. If you have a specific question, I'm always in here commenting and answering questions and making sure everything is up to snuff. All right, so principle number 5. So this is a key one. So even if you're in the middle of studying for the CPA exam and you're just struggling, and the next phase that people typically go through is, I need new CPA exam study materials. And so I'll be the first to tell you, and again, I've mentored over 2,000 CPA candidates. They have used every single possible available study materials. And when I teach people how to study the right way, that's when they start seeing results. So don't overthink the study material purchasing process, and definitely don't overcomplicate things. So I see a lot of people, they'll buy one CPA review course, they'll fail with that one, and then they'll try to go get a different CPA review course and use that one, and then fail again, and then go on to the next one. I've worked with people who have access to 4 or 5 CPA review courses. And so again, at the end of the day, it's not necessarily the CPA study materials you're using, but how you actually use them. So that's really the key here, is to learn how to use your CPA review course. And so I want to take a minute here to teach you how to craft the perfect study session. So I'm going to be using Wiley CPA Excel and my ultimate study supplement Kesler CPA review here as an example of how to study for the CPA exam. But before we do that, I want to cover my study methods. So the famous study methodology that I created is called a study loop. And so when I was studying for the CPA exam, I just studied in a very linear fashion. So I went chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I felt like I was grasping the material in real time, but then give me a few weeks and then I'd go back to it and it was like I was relearning brand new material. And so I ultimately developed the study looping process in real time while I was studying for this CPA exam after dozens and dozens, hundreds of hours of trial and error. So I really want to give this to you. I hope you can use it and ultimately start grasping the material even faster. So it's a 4-step process. So step number 1, obviously you got to figure out the best way for you to learn the material based on your learning strengths. And so as I showed in Ultimate CPA Exam Guide, there's a whole module devoted to figuring out what is busy work, what's the fluff in your study process that you can cut out, and then where should you double down your time, and what's the most efficient way that you learn. So step 1, figure all that out. Step 2 is to constantly be reviewing. So as you're learning new material, you need to loop back and review everything you've learned up to that point, because the more times you touch those concepts that you're struggling with, the stronger your understanding, the more you're going to keep everything in focus. Step number 3 is to then do targeted review. So once you've completed some reviewing, you're going to start noticing trends in certain topics that you're struggling with. So you're really going to want to implement some targeted review periodically as you're learning new material as well. And then when you identify those topics where your CPA review course just can't help you get that light bulb aha moment, that's when you need to start tracking and then outsourcing your questions to tutors or customer support and so forth. And then basically create a to-do list for yourself when you have additional time to really start digging into those areas. And then boom, you're back to step number 1. And then you just continually do the study looping process. Okay, so now I want to show you an example of how to implement CPA exam study loops in real time. So I want to introduce you to Kesler CPA review, and then I'll also be referencing Wiley CPA. So these are 2 very popular courses, and Kesler CPA is obviously a ultimate study supplement that I created, and Wiley CPA, they're one of my favorite partners. We get great results for their candidates when they implement study loops and execute on the Kesler cues, as we call them, to enhance their understanding of the material, so that ultimately you can use Kesler CPA to enhance your understanding of some of the more baseline topics and then go into Wiley CPA Excel even more confident. So that is the key here of what I want to show you. And so a study loop looks like this. So let me go to the syllabus. Okay, so you'll notice that Wiley CPA Excel, they have hundreds of what are called bite-sized lessons. And so if you go into this process and then you expand all, you're going to immediately get overwhelmed. And so the first thing I want to stress is that this is a step-by-step process. You should not look at the big picture, because when you start to look at the big picture, you will get overwhelmed. So just take it one step at a time, and the more you implement this process, the more faster you're going to get through the material and the better your understanding is going to be, and before you'll have completed all of the learning necessary. So again, this is why it's crucial to figure out how you learn best, figure out what is busy work, and then cut that out so that you can keep moving forward constantly, but also save a little bit of time to review everything you've learned up to this point. And so Wiley CPA, they do a great job of providing you with bite-sized lessons, which I love, because you're not going to be sitting there for 3 hours at a time watching an accounting professor drone on. It's just little 10, 15-minute videos. And then I've got the transcript. If you need that, you can speed up the videos if you can comprehend things quickly. Then they also have the study guide built right into the platform itself. You can start highlighting things. You can start taking digital notes. There's also some knowledge checks. The slides, you can flip through those if you want to quickly go through them. And then if you have our ultimate tier or the platinum tier, then you can ask an instructor questions in real time. And then they also have some memorization flashcards as well. So again, I love this setup. It's so cool that you can just dive in, identify if you learn best from videos, watch the video first and then do some knowledge checks to make sure you grasp the material and then keep moving on. Or maybe you're more of a reader and you prefer to just browse through the study text, take random notes on those, and then test your understanding by taking a practice and so forth. So you can take an assessment and do that. So if you're struggling with a particular topic and CPA Excel doesn't necessarily help you achieve that aha moment, this is a great opportunity to pop into Kesler CPA reviews. Just like Wiley CPA, we map all of our questions to the blueprints. We have unique questions that Wiley CPA does not use. And if you're struggling with, say, the balance sheet, then you can go in and answer questions about that, or cash flows, any particular topic. You can use our questions as a backup. And also, if you look at the CPA or the study loop process, using Kesler CPA is a great way to have fresh content that you can use to be reviewing material, seeing it from a different perspective, and so forth. So again, the whole purpose of having professor-made questions and access to Kesler CPA is to ultimately enhance your learning experience, enhance your review experience, and just to get a different perspective. The big box CPA review courses, they do gloss over a lot of topics that they assume that candidates should know, but sometimes you miss that in college, or maybe you fell asleep. And so that's where Kesler CPA questions are designed to really fill in those gaps in the topics that maybe a course like Wiley CPA just glosses over. Okay, and so another way that you can use Kesler CPA Review to study with Wiley CPA or any other CPA review course is to implement our Kesler cards. So what I love about Kesler cards is that we created cards that aren't just your typical definition memorization cards, because I'm not a big fan of those. They're boring and not necessarily the most helpful. So what I wanted to do was to create something that's in between a task-based simulation and a multiple choice question, meaning it's significantly more difficult than a multiple choice and closely mirrors what you'll see on a task-based simulation. So if you go to Kesler cards section, then go down to calculations, you can update that, and then boom, you're going to have a flashcard that's a multiple choice question, but the multiple guesses have been removed. So this forces you to visualize what the answer is going to be, visualize the process that you're going to need to use to calculate the correct answer, and then you flip it over. And then, hey, is your answer one of these four? And then we'll give you the multiple guesses. Then you can scroll down and then self-grade yourself. And so the more you self-grade, the more data our test bank is going to have. And then you can turn on adaptive mode, which will pull in relevant cards. So again, this is a very easy way to implement a review that's more difficult than multiple choice questions and is something different, and is something you can access on a mobile device to ultimately help you study faster, review faster, and start filtering out those areas that you're struggling with. And so when you turn on adaptive mode, it's going to pull in questions you haven't seen before, questions you've gotten incorrect and correct, and so forth, just to really retest you on those areas that you're struggling, and pull in new areas as well. And then we also have random shuffle mode. You can actually, and this is really cool, also create your own cards. And so I do recommend that you go to My Sets and then create a set, call it a study loop set, and then a study funnel set, which is the next phase here. Basically, what we recommend that as you're using a Wiley CPA or a Becker and so forth, is that you need to be creating targeted study materials. So we don't recommend just creating notes and highlighting things to highlight things. We want you to capture those aha moments that you have. So if there's something you're struggling with and then the light bulb clicks, that's when you should be creating your own study materials. And that's exactly what we recommend here with Kesler CPA, is that you take your question about an aha moment, and then your aha moment. Capture this bad boy. And then you save the card, and then you can study them. Boom, question about an aha moment, flip it over, there it is. So that way, just because you have the light bulb moment right now, you can capture that and save it so that you can retest yourself in 2 weeks to make sure that you still have that light bulb moment grasped and fully understood. So again, another way that Kesler CPA Review just enhances the way that you're studying with any of the big box CPA review courses. Okay, the study looping process, that pretty much wraps that up. So again, you're going to be going through your syllabus, trying to learn the material in the way that you learn best, whether it's from video, from the study lectures, whether it's from starting in the test bank and then referencing the videos and the study guide. Whatever works best for you, that's definitely what we will focus on if you become a mentor, one of our mentees, and then help you learn the material as quickly as possible, but then also teach you how to periodically go back and review everything you've learned, create your own study materials that are going to help you. Then with our accountability, we're going to hold you accountable for sticking to your goal and much more. So the next phase, so once you've completed everything that you need to cover in a CPA review course for a particular section, you're going to have about 10 to 14 days before you sit for your exam to implement what's called final review. So this is where you're going to tie everything together. And so this is ultimately a 6-step process. So step number 1 is we want you to create a practice exam over everything that's in the course. And so we want to start funneling out what you do understand so that you can focus on what you don't, because those are the most important areas for you to be spending during final review. So complete the practice exam, look at the analytics, identify the weakest areas, start doing targeted review over those areas, and then funnel out your strengths. Focus again, create another practice quiz over those identified areas of weakness. And then step 4, repeat the process again. Create another practice exam over everything. Then use your analytics to identify your weaknesses, targeted review, and just keep going and going. And do this as much as you can in the final 10 to 14 days before your exam. So step 5, when you're about 2 to 3 days before your exam, you'll definitely want to complete a simulated exam experience. And again, this is not about getting 75% correct, because that's not how the CPA exam is graded. The way your CPA review course grades the exam is different than the real thing. So the goal here is obviously to be accurate, but you also want to focus on time management. You want to focus on taking breaks, seeing if that helps your focus, if it hurts your focus, and ultimately preparing for the real exam experience. So Wiley CPA, they have 2 unique practice exams of questions you've never seen before. Kesler CPA, we provide you with a mock exam as well with fully functional task-based simulations. It's timed. And so it's a perfect opportunity for you to prepare for the real thing. But again, by the time you're 2 to 3 days out, you're going to pretty much be ready to go, and there's not a whole lot else you can do. So it's really important to focus on test anxiety, time management, and then assessing if you should be taking breaks, if you shouldn't, and so forth, and practicing those sorts of things. And then we do recommend step 6 here, 1 day before your exam. Just take it easy, no intense studying, flip through your flashcards, your notes, just do some high level review and really rest. Don't be pulling all-nighters before. So that's really the goal there, is to do just work, and then take it easy the night before. Understand that you've done everything possible. You've prepared for test anxiety, you've prepared for time management, you've grasped all the materials through study looping and study funneling, and you're ready to go. And whatever happens. And because you have a plan, so assuming that you've gone through Ultimate CPA Exam Guide, you're going to have a step-by-step plan regardless of what happens. So that's why we really focus on post-exam recovery. So the moment you sit for an exam, what do you do while you're waiting for your scores to be released? How do you maintain your momentum and focus and motivation? And then what happens if you fail? We want to give you a step-by-step training on how to study for a retake, how to pick which section to study for next, and just give you some best practices. And again, tutorials for all the major CPA review courses as well. And then what do you do if you pass? Because that is also an opportunity for you to get lazy, to start taking shortcuts. And so we don't want you, so we want to take you through an ego check method, as we call it, to really make sure you're maintaining your focus and motivation, and that you keep the train rolling. Because again, I passed my first 2 sections, and then I got a little bit lazy and then failed my 3rd section. So I don't want you that to happen to you as well. Okay, so that was a lot to cover, but I think, and we just glossed over how Kesler CPA, how Wiley CPA, they work together. But again, I hope that you can take the study looping process and the study funnel process to heart, because again, these 2 study methods, they changed my life. They've changed the life of hundreds of my mentees as well. And it's definitely something that is crucial if you're serious about covering all the material as quickly as possible, but then also retaining what you learn on day 1 just as fresh as what you learn in the final chapter of your CPA review course. Really crucial stuff here. All right, back to the slides. Principle number 6, less time, higher intensity rule. So Let me make myself bigger here. So when I first started studying for the CPA exam, I made the assumption that the more time I give myself, the better my odds of passing. And the absolute opposite ended up happening. So I think I gave myself like 16 weeks over the summer to study for my first section. And what ended up happening was I didn't have a fire under my butt to get the studying done. So I was just like, I'll get to it. And I just not consistent, didn't have a steady study routine. And then I just didn't really take it seriously at the beginning because I was like, oh my gosh, I have so much time. I'll just, and I'm a crammer as well. So in college, I would always just cram the night before for most of my exams and just do good enough to get by. And so that's how I treated the CPA exam. And so what is the key to passing the CPA exam is to understand that the CPA exam, it's not a slow, steady marathon. You're going to be running 4 back-to-back sprints. And so when you do this, when you're planning and scheduling, I really want you to look at how much time you're working per week, how much time you think you have available, and then based on that, make an estimate for how long you need to study for the CPA exam, and then maybe cut it back by 1 week. So the reason I say this is that you're just going to find a way when you have a tight deadline, when you have high intensity studying going on, you're going to find a way to get through all the material faster than you can think. And it's like an audit. Like we always have this set deadline, but we always find a way to get the audit done. And so that's how you should be treating the CPA exam. So don't give yourself just this infinite timeline. Just pick a date, and typically I recommend, depending on if you're not working right now and you have unlimited time to study every day, then you can get through a section in 4, 5, 6 weeks if you really need to. But if you're working full time like most of us, you're going to need closer to 8 to 12 weeks to get through everything. And so 12 weeks I've found, after again working with thousands of CPA candidates, 12 weeks is about the maximum amount of time that you want to give yourself. So that's going to give you plenty of time to complete study loops for about 10 weeks, and then give you about 2 weeks to complete your final review, where everything needs to be super intense. I do recommend taking days off from work, as much as it sucks, but it's so worth it just to have a couple fresh days right before your exam to really do that super high intense studying, where you really do your most valuable studying, digging into those weakest areas that you've identified. So again, high intensity, give yourself a set deadline and stick to it. You're going to find a way to get through all the material, but it's all about having accountability, assessing every single week where you're at. And it's okay to move your date if you're not going to be prepared, but I do recommend if you set a hard date, try to stick to it at all costs. But again, life happens, work happens, family events happen. So obviously if that situation arises, you can push the exam, but try to stick to your hard deadline if at all possible, just because again, high intensity, that's going to get you there a whole lot faster than lackadaisical studying where you're not taking everything seriously. All right, so the final principle here, hope for the best, but plan for the worst. So this final principle here, it's the common theme of everything that we've been talking about. You really want to hope for the best, obviously, because if you don't, then you're just setting yourself up for failure. But if you only hope for the best and don't plan for the worst, then you're going to fall into the situation where I did, where you are expecting to pass the exam on your first try, and then if you fail, then everything crumbles around you and you fall apart and you lose all your motivation and you risk giving up on your dream of passing the CPA exam. And I was so close to giving up so many times, and I don't want that to be you. So again, when you have the proper guidance, when you have a mentor and a coach to keep you going, when you have a community, when you have accountability partners, and then when you understand how to study and have the study materials that you need to organize and focus on the AICPA blueprints that you need to understand, that's when you're going to find the most success. So again, hope for the best, but always plan for the worst, because when you fail and you have a plan, it's not the end of the world. It's just the next step in the process, and you know exactly what to do next. You'll understand how to study for a retake. You'll understand when you need to schedule your retake, and so much more. And it won't be a stressful, life-ending event like it was for me. So again, I hope if you've learned anything from this training, that I made a ton of rookie mistakes. And literally, if you just do the opposite of what I did through these learning from the principles that I've learned how to pass the CPA exam, you're going to do great. So again, thank you for watching. Hope these principles were useful. So what should you do next? Again, check out Wiley CPA Ultimate Tier and the Kesler CPA Mentorship, Test Bank, and tutoring below. There's a lot of great resources available to you. But again, these are two programs that will really focus on helping you pass the CPA exam by teaching you the blueprints and also teaching you how and providing you with excellent support. And I just realized I didn't even mention that we do have tutoring available if you are a member of Kesler CPA Review. So if you, again, need to outsource to a professional tutor, we have tutors standing by. You can submit your question and then outsource your time. So essentially using a tutor is a way to outsource your time. So it's a great way to get something off your plate so that you can focus on something else that interests you. My team does the research for you, sends you a video. There's no Zoom scheduling or awkward interactions on a live call. You just outsource your question, get back to studying. My team sends you a video showing you work, showing you calculations on a spreadsheet, and then you can review it in 5 to 6 minutes and get back to your studying. Make a flashcard because hopefully you've achieved, again, that aha moment, and then get back to studying and on with your life. So again, so many great resources out there, but if you just do your research, this process, you can pass the CPA exam. I know you can, and we're here to help you achieve your dream. So thank you for watching, and I hope to see you on the inside.